The most iconic royalty of Southern hip-hop has just suffered a catastrophic, irreversible nuclear meltdown behind the closed doors of a tropical paradise, and the terrifying footage leaking out of Montego Bay, Jamaica has thrown the entire entertainment world into absolute chaos. What was supposed to be a majestic, multi-million-dollar vow renewal ceremony designed to heal decades of public heartbreak ended in a devastating, blood-chilling confrontation that has shattered the Harris family empire forever. Just 15 minutes before she was scheduled to walk down a rose-petaled aisle in front of 200 elite celebrity guests, Tamika "Tiny" Harris walked unannounced into the private VIP groom suite, only to catch her husband, rap mogul T.I., in an unmistakable, highly objectionable position with a 22-year-old lead backup dancer. The screams of heartbreak echoing in a leaked 45-second audio file have completely broken the internet servers, but it's the immediate, ruthless retaliation that followed that turned a private tragedy into a public execution. Within hours of Tiny grabbing the master microphone and canceling the wedding live in front of the entire guest list, 50 Cent went live to unleash a soul-crushing mockery, while insider leaks prove this was a calculated secret affair that has triggered an immediate emergency divorce filing and asset freeze. Do not look away from this screen for a single second, because exclusive insider transcripts prove this entire Caribbean disaster goes far deeper than anyone imagines. To truly understand the horrifying gravity of why this tropical paradise turned into an absolute slaughterhouse of heartbreak, we have to look closely at the fragile, highly volatile foundation surrounding T.I. and Tiny Harris throughout the first half of 2026. For over 2 decades, Clifford T.I. Harris and Tamika "Tiny" Harris have stood as the undisputed royalty of Southern urban culture. Their journey from the dusty streets of Bankhead to multi-platinum music catalogs, hit reality television franchises, and massive corporate empires has been celebrated by millions as the ultimate story of ride-or-die loyalty. However, behind the glitz, the red carpets, and the pristine family brand lay a long, painful history of structural instability. Over their 20-year relationship, the couple has weathered intense public storms, humiliating infidelity scandals, cryptic social media warfare, and multiple near-divorce court filings. Every single time the public declared them finished, T.I. and Tiny would manage to retreat behind closed doors, engineer a strategic reconciliation, and present a united front to the world. By mid-2026, however, the pressure on T.I. had reached an all-time high. Following a string of severe public relations disasters, including the humiliating, highly publicized backstage altercation between his entourage and tactical security at the BET Awards, the erratic public crashouts of his 21-year-old son King Harris, and severe marketing stumbles surrounding his final retirement album Kill the King, T.I.'s corporate standing was actively hemorrhaging credibility. The Harris brand desperately needed an image reset, a monumental public event that would scrub away the negative headlines, realign the narrative around family values, and restore T.I. as the respected elder statesman of hip-hop culture. Enter the 2026 Jamaican vow renewal ceremony. Designed as a lavish, multi-million-dollar 4-day extravagant getaway at a private, hyper-exclusive oceanfront resort in Montego Bay, Jamaica, this event was mathematically engineered to be a massive PR victory lap. The production was staggering. The couple rented out an entire cliffside estate, invited 200 of their highest-profile celebrity friends, executives, and tastemakers, and sold exclusive broadcast rights to a major television network. The narrative was supposed to be simple and heartwarming. After 20 years of trials, tribulations, and growth, the King and Queen of the South were recommitting their lives to one another under the Caribbean sunset. Millions of dollars were riding on the flawless execution of this ceremony. To elevate the after-party entertainment, the event's production coordinators hired an elite, ultra-talented dance troupe consisting of young, high-profile professional dancers from Atlanta and Los Angeles. Among them was a stunning, 22-year-old lead dancer who had recently been featured in several mainstream hip-hop music videos. In the 48 hours leading up to the main ceremony, subtle cracks began appearing in the pristine facade. Resort staff noted that Tiny appeared noticeably anxious and distant during the rehearsal dinners, while T.I. was frequently seen huddled in dark corners of the estate, engaged in secretive, low-whisper phone conversations. According to leaks from an anonymous housekeeping staff member, heated arguments had already broken out inside the presidential villa over T.I.'s insistence on managing the entertainment schedule without Tiny's input. Tiny's intuition, honed through 2 decades of surviving the brutal realities of the music industry, was already tingling with alarm. She could feel that something was deeply off, but she tried desperately to suppress her fears for the sake of her family, the television cameras, and the massive corporate sponsors backing the weekend. She had no idea that while she was putting the final touches on her custom diamond-encrusted bridal gown, her husband was laying the groundwork for the most catastrophic betrayal in the history of celebrity culture. The disastrous detonation occurred inside the opulent, marble-floored VIP groom's suite at the Rose Hall Estate in Montego Bay, Jamaica, precisely at 5:45 p.m. on the evening of the ceremony. The atmospheric backdrop could not have been more picturesque. The sun was beginning its golden descent over the Caribbean Sea. A soft tropical breeze was blowing through the palm trees, and 200 elite celebrity guests, dressed in pristine, mandatory all-white formal attire, were taking their seats around the oceanfront gazebo. The orchestra was quietly tuning their instruments, champagne was flowing, and network television producers were giving high fives in the control booth, confident they were about to capture a historic broadcast moment. Meanwhile, in the bridal suite located in the west wing of the estate, Tiny was putting the finishing touches on her preparations. Flanked by her daughters, close friends, and her longtime glam squad, she looked stunning in her custom gown. But a sudden, unsettling realization struck her. It was a long-standing personal tradition between the couple that T.I. would send a handwritten love letter and a personal gift to her dressing room exactly 30 minutes before any major milestone event. The clock ticked past 5:30 p.m. Then 5:40 p.m. No letter arrived. No gift. No phone call. Driven by an inexplicable, overwhelming gut feeling that something was terribly wrong, Tiny excused herself from her daughters, telling her team she was going to step out for a breath of fresh air before making her grand entrance. Instead, her feet carried her swiftly down the long, secluded mahogany corridor toward the VIP groom's suite in the East Wing. She did not knock. She did not call out. Tiny gently turned the heavy brass handle and pushed the double doors open. The scene that met her eyes was so graphic, so horrific, and so utterly undeniable that it instantly paralyzed her where she stood. There, against the vanity mirror, stood T.I. alongside the 22-year-old lead backup dancer from the event's entertainment troupe. They were caught in an intimate, undeniable, highly objectionable physical embrace, completely unbothered by the fact that 200 people were sitting outside waiting for a marriage vow renewal. For 2 agonizing seconds, the room was completely silent as the gravity of the betrayal set in. Then, the VIP suite exploded into absolute, unadulterated hell. Tiny let out a guttural, bone-chilling scream of pure heartbreak that echoed down the mahogany hallway. In a fit of uncontrollable rage and agony, she grabbed a heavy, crystal champagne bucket from the side table and hurled it directly at the mirror, sending shattered glass and ice flying across the room. She lunged forward, her voice cracking with pure venom as she confronted the young dancer, who scrambled frantically to gather her clothes and escape through a side service exit. T.I., caught in absolute, panic-stricken embarrassment, stumbled backward, stammering excuses and trying desperately to grab Tiny's arms to calm her down. But there was no calming the storm. Tiny was completely out of her mind with heartbreak, screaming at the top of her lungs, slapping his hands away, and cursing his entire existence. In the raw audio recording secretly captured by a terrified staff member standing just outside the door, Tiny's voice echoed with furious agony. "Get your hands off me. Don't you dare touch me, Clifford. 20 years. 20 damn years I gave you. I stood by you through jail, through court, through everything. And you're in here 15 minutes before we walk the aisle with a child. T.I. tried to plead with her to stop yelling because the cameras and guests were outside, desperately claiming it was not what it looked like on his mother's soul, but Tiny shut him down instantly, shrieking that she saw it with her own eyes, that he had ruined her life, and that the wedding was officially over. Personal bodyguards and resort security rushed into the hallway, attempting to establish a perimeter and prevent the celebrity guests outside from discovering the horror unfolding in the VIP wing. But Tiny was completely beyond the point of management or containment. She didn't just storm off to her room to cry. Driven by a scorched-earth desire for ultimate vengeance, Tiny marched directly past the panicked security guards, out through the mahogany doors, and straight toward the main sound mixing booth setup at the edge of the oceanfront lawn. Before anyone could realize what she was doing or cut the power feeds, Tiny grabbed the main master microphone directly out of the sound technician's hands. The 200 elite celebrity guests, who were chatting comfortably in their seats, sipping tropical cocktails, were suddenly deafened by a loud, piercing screech of audio feedback echoing through the massive stadium-grade speakers. They looked up, expecting to see a welcoming announcement. Instead, they saw Tamika "Tiny" Harris standing by the soundboard, her white veil torn, her makeup smeared with tears, her chest heaving with rage. Tiny lifted the microphone to her lips and delivered a message that sent shockwaves across the entire Caribbean Sea. "Attention, everyone. I want to thank you all for flying out to Jamaica, but you can all pack your bags and go home right now. The vow renewal is officially canceled." Clifford couldn't even keep his pants up for 15 minutes before walking down the aisle. He's in the dressing room with the backup dancer. It's over. She dropped the microphone onto the sound console with a deafening thud, turned around, and walked off into the private estate, leaving 200 A-list celebrities, television producers, and family members sitting in absolute, frozen, jaw-dropped silence. The wedding wasn't just canceled, it had been publicly executed in front of the entire industry. As production assistants panicked and network executives began frantically trying to confiscate cell phone footage from attendees, T.I. was escorted back into the presidential suite under heavy security guard protection. But if he thought the nightmare ended with a canceled ceremony, he was dead wrong. Because while the guests were frantically booking emergency flights off the island, the story was already making its way to the most dangerous men in media. Word of the Jamaican wedding disaster traveled across digital networks at terrifying speed. By 8 p.m., less than 2 hours after Tiny dropped the microphone on the Montego Bay lawn, the 45-second audio recording of her screaming in the dressing room was uploaded to an encrypted blog, mirrored across X, TikTok, and Instagram, and racked up an unbelievable 40 million views in a single evening. The visual of celebrity guests fleeing the private estate in white formal wear while social media bloggers dissected the audio frame by frame threw the entire culture into an absolute state of frenzy. Then came the nuclear strike. Rap mogul, master internet troll, and longtime arch-nemesis 50 Cent saw the headline, verified the leaked audio, and immediately went live on Instagram to deliver a ruthless, soul-crushing commentary that permanently cemented T.I.'s public humiliation. 50 Cent sat back in his leather armchair, smoking a cigar, his face flushed with unbridled delight as he played the leaked Montego Bay audio through his studio speakers, pausing it every 5 seconds to break it down for 300,000 live viewers. He howled with laughter, wiping tears of delight from his eyes as he yelled into the camera, asking how T.I. could fly 200 people all the way to Jamaica just to get caught in the dressing room with the backup dancer. He dubbed T.I. the king of the dressing room, mocking him for not even being able to wait until after the cake was cut. 50 Cent then turned his sights on T.I.'s 21-year-old son, laughing hysterically and asking if King Harris was going to step up and make a diss track about the backup dancer troupe, calling the entire situation pure, unadulterated comedy. 50 Cent's ruthless mockery instantly trended #1 worldwide, shifting the public conversation from a tragic story of a broken marriage into a humiliating global meme. Internet users began flooding T.I.'s comment sections with lawn chair emojis, dressing room jokes, and scathing critiques of his character. Leaked private text messages from celebrity attendees who were at the resort began leaking to major gossip outlets, detailing the sheer panic that took over Montego Bay as guests scrambled toward private vans and network producers wept on the resort lawns. Mainstream entertainment news outlets immediately picked up the story, with legal analysts and brand strategists openly declaring that T.I.'s career and personal brand had suffered a fatal blow. The public relations nightmare was so severe that corporate sponsors backing his upcoming Kill the King album press tour immediately began pulling their funding, desperate to distance themselves from the catastrophic infidelity scandal. But just when the public thought this was simply a case of a serial cheater getting caught at the worst possible moment, a second, far more sinister revelation dropped that completely flipped the entire narrative upside down. At 2 a.m., an anonymous whistleblower within the charter airline company that transported the production team to Montego Bay leaked a series of encrypted travel manifests and hotel booking receipts to an investigative journalist. The documents dropped an absolute nuclear bomb on the story. The leaked receipts proved that the 22-year-old backup dancer had not just met T.I. in Jamaica as part of the hired dance troupe. T.I. had personally booked her on a private luxury charter flight 3 days prior to the rest of the family's arrival. Furthermore, resort check-in logs revealed that he had quietly paid for a secluded, off-site luxury villa located 10 miles away from the main estate using a shell company credit card tied directly to Grand Hustle corporate accounts. Think about what this revelation means. This wasn't a sudden, spur-of-the-moment mistake driven by tropical atmosphere or alcohol. This was a cold, calculated, months-long premeditated secret affair. T.I. had been funding a completely hidden lifestyle for this dancer using corporate funds, flying her out to the exact same island where he was supposed to be renewing his vows with his wife of 20 years, and secretly visiting her villa while Tiny was planning the wedding details. The exposure of this paper trail transformed the situation from a painful marriage dispute into an unforgivable, calculated betrayal. When Tiny's legal team in Atlanta received copies of the leaked travel manifests at her oceanfront suite at 3 a.m., the emotional tragedy instantly transitioned into an all-out corporate war, leaving the entire industry holding its breath for the inevitable legal explosion. The public fallout from the Montego Bay disaster didn't just trend. It fractured the online world into two deeply hostile, warring camps. The moment Tiny's gut-wrenching PA system announcement collided with 50 Cent's relentless live-stream roast and those leaked corporate travel manifests, social media platforms completely exploded. If you opened any app over the past 24 hours, the toxic energy radiating from the screen was deafening. Comment sections across Instagram, TikTok, and X have transformed into a lawless battleground where millions of fans, cultural commentators, and industry figures are clashing with a terrifying level of emotion. This is no longer just a celebrity scandal. It has morphed into a massive cultural war over marriage, loyalty, financial manipulation, and female empowerment. On one side stands the overwhelming majority of the internet, Team Tiny. This faction, consisting of millions of fiercely loyal women, reality TV fans, and cultural commentators, expressed profound outrage and deep heartbreak on Tiny's behalf. They highlighted how Tiny had stood shoulder to shoulder with T.I. through his multiple federal prison sentences, his endless legal battles, his career ups and downs, and his previous public scandals, only to be subjected to the ultimate disrespect on what was supposed to be her night of ultimate vindication. Viral hashtags like #TinyFree, #JusticeForTiny, and #BoycottGrandHustle began trending across every major platform within hours. Fans are furiously demanding that Tiny immediately file for emergency divorce, strip T.I. of his management stakes in her music catalog, and take half of his vast multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. Prominent female podcast hosts held emergency roundtables deconstructing the psychological toll of long-term betrayal, declaring that Tiny didn't just cancel a wedding, she broke a 20-year cycle of public humiliation. Gossip. On the small, highly criticized opposite side of the spectrum stood a minor group of T.I. defenders and online trolls. These individuals attempted to argue that while T.I.'s actions were indefensible, Tiny's decision to cancel the wedding on the master PA system in front of 200 celebrity guests was an emotional crash-out that permanently destroyed millions of dollars in television broadcast deals. They claimed that as a seasoned businesswoman, Tiny should have handled the matter quietly in the suite rather than destroying the family's corporate empire live on camera. Meanwhile, inside the Harris family household, the emotional destruction was absolute and devastating. King Harris, who has built a reputation for his explosive online presence, went on an erratic posting spree. He dropped a series of cryptic, highly aggressive messages threatening anyone who spoke down on his family before getting into shouting matches on his live stream. However, sources close to the family report that behind closed doors, King was completely crushed, caught between his fierce loyalty to his father and his deep love for his mother. Tiny's daughters posted heartbreaking black and white images on their social media pages with simple, sorrowful captions that signaled the end of a family era, quietly unfollowing T.I. across all platforms. The corporate fallout was swift and merciless. The television network that had invested millions into filming the Jamaican vow renewal issued a cold, formal statement announcing the immediate suspension of the production, citing unforeseen personal circumstances and breach of contract protocols. Major distribution networks began quietly removing promotional banners for T.I.'s upcoming media projects, while high-profile corporate sponsors pulled their funding from his upcoming tour dates. The King of the South was completely isolated, holed up inside his Jamaican suite under heavy security protection, while his wife was on a private jet back to Atlanta surrounded by her legal team. But while the public was focusing on the impending divorce, a dark, unsettling realization began creeping into the industry. Did T.I.'s own family drama create the perfect opportunity for his rivals to permanently erase his legacy, or is there a far more sinister power pulling the strings from the shadows? Just when the world thought this tragic story had reached its absolute climax with a messy affair and an emergency flight back to Atlanta, a final, terrifying twist has just surfaced that completely recontextualizes every single second of the Jamaican dressing room disaster. At exactly 5 a.m., an encrypted WhatsApp audio note between the 22-year-old backup dancer and an unidentified high-level industry executive was leaked directly to an investigative hip-hop journalist. The audio note drops an absolute nuclear bomb on the entire narrative. In the recording, the young dancer's voice can be clearly heard discussing a covert financial transaction. The conversation explicitly reveals that she had been paid an astronomical sum of $100,000 through an offshore blind trust linked directly to a major rival entertainment conglomerate. Their explicit instruction? She was hired to deliberately lure T.I. into the VIP groom's suite at precisely 5:45 p.m., just 15 minutes before the aisle walk, and to purposefully leave the double doors unlocked. Read that again. This entire heartbreaking confrontation was not just a random affair, it was a meticulously executed, multi-million-dollar corporate honey trap. The rival entity knew T.I.'s personal weaknesses, knew his past behavioral patterns, and knew that catching him in an objectionable position right before a televised vow renewal would mathematically guarantee a catastrophic public meltdown. They wanted to trigger the moral turpitude clauses in his television deals, destroy his reputation beyond repair, and bankrupt his independent media empire. But the betrayal gets even more sickening. The leaked audio note reveals that the person who subtly tipped off Tiny at 5:40 p.m., gently pointing out that T.I. hadn't sent his traditional pre-wedding letter and suggesting she walk down to the VIP groom's suite, was not a concerned friend or a family member. It was a high-ranking, deeply trusted insider from within T.I.'s own management team. The calls were coming from inside the house. T.I. was walked directly into a career-ending corporate execution by a mole sitting inside his own inner circle, someone who sold out 20 years of family history for a corporate payout from his rivals. The current situation in Atlanta is an absolute state of war. T.I. is currently holed up inside an undisclosed private estate, surrounded by a stripped-down security detail, frantically sweeping his inner circle to identify the traitor who engineered his downfall. Meanwhile, Tiny's legal team has officially drafted an emergency divorce petition in Fulton County Superior Court, seeking emergency temporary spousal support, total custody of their minor children, an immediate freeze on all joint Grand Hustle bank accounts, and a full forensic audit of his corporate finances. This nightmare is far from over, and the rabbit hole goes much deeper than anyone imagines. Rumors are already swirling that the hidden informant didn't just coordinate the honey trap. They possess additional audio recordings from inside the Atlanta estate that could expose even darker corporate secrets. The next 24 hours are going to reshape the entire hip-hop landscape forever, and the fallout threatening to descend upon the Harris empire is cataclysmic. The countdown has officially begun, and the fallout from this massive $100,000 corporate betrayal is shifting second by second. Now, I want to hear from you directly. Get down in the comment section right now and let me know. Was T.I. just a serial cheater who finally got what he deserved? Or is he the ultimate victim of a cold-blooded corporate honey trap? Who do you think is the secret mole hiding inside his own team? And did Tiny make the right move canceling the wedding on the master mic, or should she have handled it privately? Smash that like button and hit subscribe with notifications turned on right now. We are actively tracking a major legal leak dropping out of Fulton County Court within hours. You absolutely cannot afford to miss the next explosive reveal. Stay locked in.